What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and today I'm going to be running a few ideas past you guys on how I think Anakin could be balanced in Battlefront 2, as we all know that pretty much since his release he has been slightly overpowered and it has very much changed the balancing of the game, mainly in Galactic Assault. Now, you might be wondering, didn't you make a video saying he shouldn't be nerfed a few weeks ago? And that is definitely the case. I was one of the people saying that I didn't want him to be nerfed when he was released, although to be fair I did mention in that video that some things should change slightly, and it turns out what I guessed actually ended up happening. So at the time I definitely was happy with how he was. The thing is that with some more playtime since that video, I, along with a lot of other people that I've spoken to, have started to notice just how much he's affecting the game and the team balancing, as it almost feels like a good Anakin player can win a game of Galactic Assault off his own hand more often than not, and so it's fair to say my opinion has definitely changed since he was released. Now, that's definitely not to say that I'm necessarily unhappy with him at the moment. I'd honestly be fine if they kept him how he is. However, let's just say I had the final decision, then I would change a few things to try and balance him a little bit more, and so that is what we are going to be going through in this video. The gameplay you're seeing in the background is a pretty good example of what I mean. Actually, this footage was taken from one of my streams earlier in the week, and it didn't end up being a crazy high kill streak or anything, and in fact the gameplay is pretty terrible because you'll see me make quite a few mistakes throughout the game. But one thing that myself and the chat noticed in this game was that Anakin can completely destroy almost every villain without too much effort at all. That's actually where my issue with Anakin lies. It has nothing to do at all with the troopers, as I honestly think every hero should destroy troopers unless they actually team up and work together to kill you. But when you can run around as Anakin and just melt every other villain, and especially the blaster villains, then that's where I think it starts to become an issue. So for example, against someone like Bosk or Boba, or really just anyone without a block for that matter, if you pull them towards you and they land anywhere nearby, they're all but dead at that point, because a force pull, passionate strike and heroic might combo plus 2 quick saber swings deals 700 damage in literally about 5 seconds, all the while continually knocking the enemy to the ground, as each ability does have a knockdown effect, and so without a block there is literally nothing you can do to stop it. Obviously, if you time it right, you can roll away from his pull ability and it will actually miss you, but if you mess that timing up by even half a second, you can pretty much say goodbye to that kill streak you're on, because you will very rarely survive that situation unless you either get lucky, or if you're, say, Boba Fett and you can quickly fly away before he can deal too much damage, but anyone else and you're pretty much a dead man. Now, my first idea in fixing this would be to just slightly nerf his passionate strike and retribution abilities, not by much at all, but just enough to actually give you some sort of window of opportunity where you can at least try and survive that situation. I think if the devs removed the knockdown effect on his passionate strike, then that would be a really good start. I'm fine with the damage and the ability to break blocks. In fact, I actually think it's one of my favourite abilities in the game for that reason. But against blaster heroes, it is just far too powerful, and you combine it with all of his other abilities. Removing that knockdown effect would still leave it being super powerful against saber heroes who aren't smart enough to dodge it in time, yet it wouldn't be nearly as OP against blaster users, because even though it can still deal 200 damage, they'll at least have a chance to dodge or roll rather than being knocked off their feet yet again. As for retribution, the only thing I'd change would be the time that you're stuck in the air being choked, as I think that's actually what makes the ability so powerful. The damage is fine in my opinion. 400 to 450 damage is a hell of a lot, but I'm okay with that since it is his 4th ability. Yet when you add on to that the 3 or 4 straight seconds of being held in the air, you're usually going to get shot by Anakin's teammates, and so that does generally end up being pretty much a one-hit kill ability. If they kept the high damage but maybe made the choke go for as long as Vader's choke for example, then I think it'd be a lot less frustrating, as again you might have some very slight chance to survive, and that's really all I want, is just a small window of opportunity where if I play my cards right I can survive and retreat to safety to at least give myself some sort of chance. Now, the next idea that I had, which I did mention in that first video that I was talking about earlier, was actually to buff all the other characters in the game, not quite to Anakin's level, as like I said I am okay with him being slightly overpowered, but at least enough of a buff that they can actually all stand a chance when they do come up against him. A lot of people didn't like the idea of this, but honestly I don't really see any issue with it as long as it is still balanced. Like I said before, heroes should dominate against regular troopers, and to be honest they already do, so it's not like all of a sudden it's going to be impossible to do well as a trooper, yet it would still balance out the hero versus villain gameplay within Galactic Assault. If they can't buff all the heroes and villains, then I would love to see at least Vader be brought up a notch, kinda to meet Anakin at the top. Again, maybe not quite as powerful, but at least powerful enough to make it balanced in Galactic Assault. Like I said before, right now Anakin can almost win games on his own, so countering him with a super powerful Vader could also work, although it's probably not the best way to go about it, seeing as that could also make the problem worse in some ways by having 2 super powerful characters instead. Now, as for another idea, and this one is super basic and doesn't really require a nerf at all, but this would be to actually just increase his battle point cost on all maps. Rather than costing 4,500 or 6,000 battle points, they could just increase his battle point cost back to 6,000 and 8,000 like it used to be back when the game first launched. The reason I think this could work is that it wouldn't necessarily change Anakin at all, but it would still make him much less of a frequent character because of how much easier it would be to pick the cheaper characters first. Another issue currently is that he's only 4,500 battle points on prequel and OT maps as well, meaning he's pretty much the go-to character on 9 out of 13 maps, and so if they did make him only cheap on the prequel maps as well as maybe a slight cost increase, then I think that would make him much less of a regular character, and therefore he wouldn't dominate every single game like he currently does. This would also still allow for him to dominate how he does at the moment. However, it still just wouldn't be a regular massacre every single game. Instead, we'd see a lot more hero choices as people will be racing to get that first hero, and they might be more inclined to pick Luke on Tatooine rather than waiting and trying to get Anakin, for example. Now, these are some pretty raw ideas for sure. I haven't really had a proper sit down to think about whether these would definitely work or not, but the point of this video is more to see what you guys think and whether you do agree with some of these ideas or whether you have any of your own, or even if you just think Anakin is fine how he is. I want to reiterate that I'm not complaining and having a sook about him being so strong. Like I said at the start of the video, if he stayed the exact same as he is now, I honestly would be okay with that, but I definitely would prefer to see him slightly more balanced if that was a possibility. At the end of the day, he's not unbeatable by any means, and if you do get a few teammates to help out, he can still be taken out somewhat easily, but again, I think the main issue is how quickly he can deal with the characters like Bosk, Palpatine and more, because one tiny slip up from those characters and they're pretty much dead without any second chance to try and survive. So if you do agree or disagree, or if you have any ideas of your own or even want to expand on some of my ideas, then definitely feel free to do so down in the comments section. The whole point of this video is just to get a discussion going and get a bit of an idea on how you guys feel about Anakin's power and whether there are any ways that he can be balanced in Battlefront 2. He's definitely a whole lot of fun to play as, and I don't want to see him nerfed into the ground by any means, but I do think a little bit of balancing would do wonders for the game, especially heading into the new game mode early next week. So that is going to do it for today's video, guys. Make sure to leave a like down below, leave a comment with any of your ideas, and hopefully we can come up with some even better ideas, as like I said, mine definitely are pretty raw and not properly thought out, so there's no guarantee that anything I said in this video would actually work. If you are new to the channel, then feel free to subscribe and turn on your notifications so you don't miss out on any more Battlefront 2 videos or live streams. Thank you all so much for watching. You guys have a great day, and I'll catch you all in the next one.